Diamond B Sports presents
Museum here at the Alabama International Motor Speedway. This museum and the entire race facility, known as Talladega, stand as a tribute to the great drivers, the good old boys from NASCAR, who have made this the fastest super speedway in the world, with lap speeds of over 200 miles per hour. Hi, I'm Ed Bruce, and today we'll be watching the best of NASCAR racing, the Grand National drivers, exhibiting their racing skills on another super speedway. It's one known for wearing down both drivers and race cars. It's in Dover, Delaware. It's called the Monster Mile. And as usual, my good friends Brock Yates and Steve Evans are up at the track getting ready to call the action from today's race, the Dover 500. And a little later on, I'll take us inside the Hall of Fame Museum to show you some of the interesting exhibits on display representing the best of NASCAR racing over the years. But right now, let's go up to Dover Downs in Dover, Delaware, to Brock and Steve for their thoughts on today's race.
And thanks, Ed Bruce, and welcome to one of the most difficult races on the Winston Cup Tour, the Dover Downs, Dover 500 here in Dover, Delaware, on the famed 1 mile Monster Mile. And on the pole for today's race, one of the real young lions in Grand National stock car racing from Corpus Christi, Texas, Terry Labonte. Terry, any final thoughts before we get this race underway?
Well, I don't know. You know, it's an awful long race, so I don't know. We'll just try to do our best.
You want to try to lead it or let maybe somebody else set the pace for a while at the beginning?
Well, I don't know. If we can run up front, we'll run up front and just try to run as hard as we can. And, you know, if somebody else is beating us early in the race, you know, it's such a long race, we really won't worry about it if we can stay pretty close to them.
Okay, well, good luck, Terry.
Thank you.
And now to the outside pole position, my broadcasting partner, Steve Evans.
All right, thank you, Brock Yates. Ricky, your style has been to lead every lap you possibly can. Does that hold true today as well?
Well, I think the best place to be on this racetrack would be out front where you can call the race yourself. Going to wait and see how it goes in the very first early stages. I'd like to be able to think that I could get by Terry maybe 4 or 5 laps into the race. But, you know, it's just so many variables, it's hard to really say. But I'd like to be able to get out front and lead this race.
Congratulations for being here in the front row once again. Brock Yates is with the number 3 qualifier on the inside of the second row, Dale Earnhardt.
Thanks, Steve. I am with Dale Earnhardt, who's going to be starting in the 3rd spot. Dale, any final thoughts before this Monster Mile starts to unfold here?
It's going to be a tough one, it looks like. It's going to be a real competitive race, Brock, but if, you know, we can just hang in there till the last 50, 100 miles, I feel like we have a good shot at winning. The car is running real good.
Well, good luck today, Dale.
Thank you, Brock.
To the 4th starting position, Steve Evans.
Jeff, you paced yourself very nicely a year ago here to a 4th place finish. Same strategy today?
Yeah, pretty much. You know, we feel our car's running and handling pretty well, so we're just going to kind of lay back. And, you know, the important thing is to be there at the end so you have that chance to win, and so that's what we're going to try to do.
And starting 5th, the young Charger from Ohio, Tim Richmond.
And starting alongside Richmond on the outside of row number 3, car number 98, the Californian Joe Ruttman. That's a Pontiac.
And in the Buick, one of the real superstars in this business, Bobby Allison from Hueytown, Alabama.
Next to Bobby, a fellow member of the Alabama gang, Neil Bonnet, in the Chevrolet car number 75.
And from Taylorsville, North Carolina, Harry Gant in movie director Hal Needham's Buick.
And Harry finds next to him on the outside of that 5th row, Buddy Baker in the Ford number 21.
In all, we've got a field of 36 starters here at Dover, and that pole speed of Terry Labonte's at 139.573 miles an hour is very quick for a 1 mile track, Steve.
It certainly is, and this is a very physical racetrack. If you remember a year ago when we were here, Darrell Waltrip won the Dover 500, and I don't believe I've ever seen him so completely exhausted as he was after 500 laps on this particular racetrack. So the release of the balloon signifies to the crowd that 36 starters are ready to move out onto the mile for warm-up and pace laps.
Well, it's going to be plenty tough. A mile track is a kind of an intermediate distance for these NASCAR drivers. Of course, they'll run on as big a track as Talladega, which is 2.6 miles, and as short a track as some of the half miles that they'll also run on. But a mile gives them just enough speed, as we know, about 140 miles an hour, to make it plenty tiring. And of course, they're going to go 500 miles. And some of the shorter tracks, they'll only go half that distance.
Clear back in row number 7 is Darrell Waltrip, who, as I mentioned, won here a year ago. Richard Petty and his son Kyle are side by side back in row number 9.
That's a bit of a surprise for Richard, and of course a big thrill for his son to be starting. And remember how well he ran last year here. He got himself a 2nd place right on Darrell Waltrip's bumper, and of course that is Kyle's finest finish ever in his brief career in Grand National competition.
The field of 36 now moving out onto the 24-degree banking. It's really difficult here to find what you would normally call a straightaway. Even the straights have 2 or 3 degrees banked to them, Brock.
Sure is. So everybody's neck's going to get a little bit tired in the course of 500 miles. And believe it or not, that is a factor. The G-forces in these automobiles at these speeds.
Also, this could be a track. It's a warm day that will be hard on tires, Brock. You've got 3,700 pounds of Detroit iron on a steeply banked 1-mile track. The tire companies are going to be in the heat of this thing today, too.
Indeed they are. But these guys are so good at changing tires, we're going to see some pit stops in the traditional Grand National manner, which is about 20 seconds to change all 4 corners and throw on about 22 gallons of racing fuel. So it's all ahead of us. 500 miles at Dover as Terry Labonte and Ricky Rudd lead the field down toward the green flag. Stay with us.
From the start of the Dover 500 here in Dover, Delaware, I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce, who's down at the International Motorsports Hall of Fame in Talladega, Alabama. Terry Labonte on the pole, Ricky Rudd alongside him in the front row. We may get a green flag at the end of this pace lap.
It's interesting, Steve, that we've got a bunch of the young kids up front, really. In fact, the only real veteran in the starting 7 is Bobby Allison, who is, in fact, in that 7th position. But we got Rudd and Labonte up front, and, of course, guys like Dale Earnhardt and Tim Richmond, who are all sort of members of the new generation in this league. Of course, Dale's been around a while, but the rest of them, uh-oh, green flag, Steve.
We have got a start of the Dover 500, and Terry Labonte, the pole sitter, immediately moves out in front of Ricky Rudd. You heard Ricky tell Brock Yates earlier that he hoped to get around Labonte and lead as many laps as possible in the early going. So far, he just can't get around Labonte.
A little dust picked up there as the field comes down the back straight and gets itself sorted out. These starts, Steve, are really nice and clean these days. I can remember back in the old days, NASCAR would often have a lot of first lap collisions, but the quality of drivers has increased so much over the recent past that they get off the line really well and sort themselves out.
That's right, Brock. No longer is that eager beaver back in the 6th row who tries to come through the pack like a bowling ball. If you try that these days, you're just not going to be on the circuit very long. It's gotten much too expensive for that.
It sure has. The cars are so sophisticated and handle so well that they're much more controllable than the old automobiles used to be. And as we said, the quality of driving is just extraordinary. As we still see, Terry Labonte pull out maybe a car length on Ricky Rudd, and down there in that low groove, we see Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Bodine trying to get by.
And Darrell Waltrip, who mastered the Monster Mile just a year ago, started in the 14th spot, has already picked up 1 position and is on the move. Waltrip in the number 11 car running 13th right now.
Of course, that's the part about NASCAR racing that's so good, is that a guy can start well back in the field and at the end of 500 miles be right at the front. So there's a long way to go in this race, and Waltrip is notoriously good in that Junior Johnson car on the shorter tracks around the NASCAR circuit. So he'll definitely be a factor in this race.
Car number 44, Terry Labonte from Corpus Christi, Texas, continues to lead it. Ricky Rudd just a car length or so behind. Dale Earnhardt already putting pressure on Ricky Rudd. Earnhardt in car number 15, and Jeff Bodine running 4th, number 88.
Well, look at this. Earnhardt now moving up on Ricky Rudd. He's already pushed well past Jeff Bodine into 3rd, and now he's challenging for that 2nd spot. He got underneath Bodine briefly, but Jeff held him off for the time being. But definitely, Steve, the strongest runner right now among the leaders is Dale Earnhardt.
No question about it. He'll go very low here coming into turn number 2. Right down on the white line, and he's going to make it work this time, Brock. He is around Ricky Rudd running 2nd. Number 15, Dale Earnhardt.
Now it's going to be interesting to see if he can gather up Terry Labonte, because now he's clear, or should be clear, of Ricky Rudd, although Ricky's not given up by any means. But now he's moved out in front, definitely has a hold on 2nd place. Let's see if he can reel in Terry Labonte in that lead spot.
Well, Labonte seems to have the same kind of horsepower he qualified with, as he leads it in car number 44. Earnhardt and Rudd running 2nd and 3rd.
This is one of the new Chevrolet Monte Carlos that has that nice streamlined nose on it that Chevrolet introduced to counter the very streamlined Thunderbird that came out last year.
Well, the Ford fans are watching car number 9. That's young Bill Elliott. And Darrell Waltrip, car number 11, is challenging him for the 12th spot.
We just talked about the new Thunderbirds. Bill Elliott's driving one of the old models, Steve, and making it run very, very well. Although right there, Darrell Waltrip just slipped by him and moved up 1 more spot as he tries to overtake the leaders. And sure enough, Steve, Earnhardt has moved up right on Terry Labonte's bumper.
So Terry Labonte in the Chevrolet getting an awful lot of pressure right now from the very aerodynamic Ford Thunderbird of Dale Earnhardt, car number 15. So Earnhardt has picked off Ricky Rudd and now goes after the pole sitter, Terry Labonte. Here he comes down on the inside the same way he got Rudd.
And they're coming up on slower traffic now, which could make things mighty interesting. In fact, Earnhardt gets squeezed there by one of the slower automobiles. He had a good shot at getting by Terry. And notice he's trying that low groove. That seems to be the place here at Dover that good handling pays off, Steve. If you can get underneath somebody going into the corners, you take the lead, just as we see Dale Earnhardt do right there. Down low.
Well, Dale Earnhardt's crew chief, Brock, Bud Moore, has got that car number 15 handling as well as, or better than any car out there. But, you know, Terry Labonte is not letting him get too far ahead.
Well, Steve, as he told us earlier before the race started, he's not going to place a massive priority on leading, and he wants to stay among the leaders, and that's good strategy at this point. Don't forget, in a race of this distance, you're not going to get that far behind unless you have some really serious problems, so all Labonte's trying to do is stay with the leaders. Here's problems in the pits.
Car number 21, Buddy Baker, is in apparently for tires. This is the Ford car that was running 11th when he exited the racetrack. A very popular driver, has been for years. And you were mentioning earlier the quick work of these tire changes, and look at this. He's getting rubber on all four corners, Brock.
He sure is. As that NASCAR official on the right side of your screen watches the action, makes sure that only the proper number of guys are over the wall and they're doing everything according to the rules. And there are specific rules about the pit stops and what can be done in terms of the crew while the car is in the pits. But there he's underway with a full tank and 4 fresh tires.
And the first thing the crew is going to do now, Brock, is inspect the tires they took off for wear and handle them very carefully, as their temperature is at least a couple of 100 degrees.
Well, it's difficult to say whether Buddy cut that tire. It looks like it's still got air in it. Whether or not he's having handling problems and they have changed the chassis setup as well as the tires, I don't know. But in any case, this man is not having any problems at the moment. But this man he's in the pits. That's the familiar number 11, the Junior Johnson car of Darrell Waltrip.
Well, you know they hate to pit these cars this early in the race, Brock, unless they can do it on a caution lap. And we have had a green flag since the start of this race. So Darrell Waltrip's pit stop looked a lot like Buddy Baker's. Some fuel, some tires, and going back out to join the fight under green.
And here's a little trio that all wants to get into third place, held by Ricky Rudd. Right behind him, Jeff Bodine and Bobby Allison. Remember, started in 7th place. Now he's challenging Bodine in that number 22 white Buick back there. And he is definitely handling very well because he's going to try the high line around Bodine, Steve.
And that's interesting, Brock, because when Dale Earnhardt came by Bodine, he did it on the inside. So apparently we've got a couple of grooves, and that can only make for a very good stock car race. You see a little wisp of smoke off of these tires sometimes. It gives you an idea of the kind of wear they're encountering out there.
Indeed, as Bobby Allison finally does move past, and look at that smoke coming off Ricky Rudd's car up on that high line. Of course, the higher up, the more loading you get on the outside tire, and you naturally get a little smoke. Not quite as much to see in a drag race, but pretty good for cars running 140 miles an hour.
So Bobby Allison in car number 22 continues to travel in 3rd spot.
And he has just blown past both Rudd and Bodine and seems to be moving out. We'll have to see. Remember, we saw Earnhardt just come up so strong. Let's see if Allison can do it at the Dover 500. Stick with us. We'll be back with more from the Monster Mile. And there you have the top 5 in the Dover 500. 4 the real young lions in this sport. And right in the middle of them, Bobby Allison, a real veteran, Steve.
And what a crowd favorite he is, Brock. Always has time to sign the autograph for the youngster. Has a young crew chief, Gary Nelson, who many think is one of the smarter, more track-savvy individuals on the NASCAR circuit right now. Bobby flies his own plate, enjoys himself thoroughly. In success, he wears it very well.
He certainly does. As we see Jeff Bodine and Ricky Rudd battling it out now for 4th place.
Really a sensational fight between these two. The best races are often back a few places, aren't they, Brock? You can't always watch the leaders. Look at this. Ricky Rudd on the outside, car number 3 from Virginia. And on the inside, car number 88, Jeff Bodine from North Carolina.
Well, you wondered earlier whether or not this was a 2-group racetrack, and Bodine and Rudd are sure telling us it is. These guys are just side by side all the way around the mile, and that really is what makes NASCAR style racing so exciting, because these guys can literally run door handle to door handle all the way around a big racetrack like this and just never give an inch.
And feel pretty secure inside those cars, too, Brock. At 3,700 pounds, there's a lot of sheet metal, a very sturdy roll cage. NASCAR has kept pace with the speeds and their safety regulations.
They sure have, and that gives the drivers an opportunity to really get out there and flail away at each other without having to worry about getting hurt or hurting somebody else. So the action is tight and close and really safe.
And a little further up in the pack, Brock, is a pretty good battle developing for second spot. Terry Labonte, who was falling back from his pole position, now gets pressure from 22, Bobby Allison.
Well, Bobby's going to set up Terry in that red number 44 as soon as he gets through this lap traffic. It's going to be interesting to see whether he'll try to get him high or low. As we saw earlier, the racetrack has a bunch of grooves. Let's see which one Allison tries when he goes high. He goes high.
Yes, he is. He's number 22, Bobby Allison, going for second spot. Labonte squeezes right back in front of him. But you can bet Bobby's going to do that same maneuver again.
Well, it implies some real handling on the part of that number 22 Buick of Allison's. If he can stay that high and run that hard, literally run right around the outside of Terry, that means that the handling of that thing is absolutely awesome.
Allison on the outside, car number 22, picking him up inch by inch, slowly but surely eroding that second place of Labonte. He's now got a car length on him. If he can tuck back in, he can. Bobby Allison secure now in the second position.
He sure is, and up front there is that blue and yellow number 15 Thunderbird of Dale Earnhardt's, and you can be sure that Allison's not going to be happy with sitting back there in second place at this point. Rudd and Bodine still fourth and fifth, still running sideways like they're a couple of electric trains just kind of circulating this racetrack.
But finally, Jeff Bodine in car number 88 is going to get around Ricky Rudd. Yes, he does. On the inside, much like Allison did, he's now in the fourth position.
And up front, the leader, Dale Earnhardt, he's still got a pretty easy time of it, Steve. Nobody challenging him at this point.
Boy, that's the kind of feeling you like at any time in the race. And I know, Brock, that earlier you had a chance to talk to the leader, Dale Earnhardt, about the importance of starting position in this particular 500-mile race.
Guys say that it really doesn't make too much difference as long as you're up in the top 5 or 10. Do you feel that way, or would you like to have the pole?
Well, I'd like to have the pole. As good as we were running, I felt like we had a real shot at it, Brock. And but, you know, the cars, we just didn't quite make it. Terry and Ricky Rudd came out and beat us. But, you know, the last two races have been won from third position here, starting from third. So that might have some bearing on it.
Is this racetrack is these miles of these 500 milers, it's just everybody's thrashing for the first halfway anyway, aren't they? I mean, you can start. How far back could you start in a place like this and feel you really had a good chance?
Well, you know, really, you could start dead last and win the race. You know, I started 32nd at Atlanta in a 500-mile race and won the race one time. So, you know, it really doesn't matter where you start at, as long as you got a good car and if you can pick up on the pace right from the start.
Well, the key is having that good car, and obviously he has got it in car number 15, prepared by Bud Moore. So Dale Earnhardt continues to lead here on the Monster Mile, and he is just passing lap traffic left and right as they all move over. Give him some room, because this is the man that has been the outstanding performer thus far in the early going of this Dover 500-mile race. And a tremendous battle developing for the 5th position, as Tim Richmond in the red car number 27 is right on the bumper of Ricky Rudd. Rudd in car number 3 has fallen from second spot all the way back to 5th. Richmond trying to get alongside him, Brock.
It's been a bit of a surprise for Ricky Rudd. We expected him to run a lot stronger. He started on the outside pole, don't forget, Steve, and he's dropped steadily back as we see Tim in that number 27 Pontiac duck in beside Ricky coming down the front straightaway. He may not have quite enough power to get by Rudd, but you can be sure that that's exactly what he's got in mind as he heads for 5th place.
Tim Richmond made the transition from Indianapolis cars to NASCAR machines very rapidly, winning 2 of the NASCAR road races out in Riverside, California, and the Pocono 500.
He has done very well indeed, and of course that car, which is owned by drag racing funny car star Raymond Beadle, is an excellent automobile crewed by young Tim Brewer, who's also one of the young mechanics and crew chiefs of a high repute in this league.
Talk about aggressive. Look at Richmond here, Brock. He wants Ricky Rudd bad.
Well, he is really a very hard driver.
And in the pits is Neil Bonnet, the National Engineering Special. Bonnet number 75, getting outside rubber that we can see. Fuel being added to the car, and this is all, remember, happening under green. So he's losing positions every second that he's in there.
And tires seem to be becoming more and more a factor in this race as it progresses. as we see Joe Ruttman in that number 98 Pontiac in 7th place, fighting with young Bill Elliott. And behind him, Harry Gant in the number 33 Pontiac of Hal Needham.
And Bill Elliott takes that 7th position from Joe Ruttman. Car number 9 now running 7th. That's Elliott in the Ford.
An interesting story. The Elliott family, his brother is the crew chief. Young Bill, a fine driver, struggled a long time before getting a first-class ride. The same with Joe Ruttman. Of course, he's the younger brother of Indianapolis winner Troy Ruttman, who won the race way back in 1951.
Well, so far, the fans couldn't ask for a better Grand National stock car race than they're getting so far. All green flag racing, a lot of action even in the middle of the pack. And here is Harry Gant, car number 33, getting around 98 Joe Ruttman. And also Ron Bouchard will get around number 98 Ruttman.
Ruttman may be having some handling problems, Steve, because he sure isn't dropping back to pace himself. He's known, as is this young man, Dale Earnhardt, as a real charger. So we got a charger up front in the lead at the Dover 500. Stick with us as the race unfolds. We'll be right back after this.
Stock car fans getting their annual treat of NASCAR Grand National Racing as Dale Earnhardt in the Ford Thunderbird number 15 continues to lead the Dover 500. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce, who's down in Talladega. Bobby Allison running in the 2nd spot, but Earnhardt has been the story since about lap number 6, leading, and we have got a car spinning in turn number 2.
Well, that's Nats Peters out of Florida, who's not a regular on this circuit. He spun in turn 2, didn't hit anything, but the important part about the whole incident, Steve, is it's the first caution of the race, and we're going to see virtually everybody dive into the pits.
Oh, yes, where it's going to be battle stations along pit row, as virtually all of your leaders will be coming in as Nats Peters limps his Buick back into the pit area. He'll be out of this Dover 500, and now it's the pit crews who'll earn their paychecks.
They sure are, Steve, and here's one of them. This is one of the Bud Moore crewmen signaling Dale Earnhardt's number 15 Thunderbird into the pits. They hold that big board up as a target for the guys to aim at when they come in.
So Earnhardt, the leader, is in, and also this car, number 22, Bobby Allison, who is running in 2nd position in car number 44, Terry Labonte.
Oh, this is going to be a race out of the pits now because there's a lot of position to be gained here. This pit stop business is really important in Grand National Racing. Labonte's car seems to be a little bit slow as they add fuel, and there is the Allison car still up on its jacks. They're getting tires on all 4 sides. There goes Allison. He's underway.
Earnhardt was out even before Allison, Brock, so they go out 1-2 just the way they came in.
All right, so the pattern of the race doesn't change as far as these pit stops are concerned among the leaders. Labonte underway now. And here's the Junior Johnson crew going into action. You notice, Steve, that they're using regular old garage jack. A lot of different kinds of racing cars now use hydraulic jacks in the cars, but NASCAR says, you're going to use an old traditional jack just like you use down at the old corner gas station.
If I have to use one, they should have to use one.
Absolutely, and believe me, these guys horse those things around. You saw that guy swing that jack into action. Real precision with these crews.
And waiting patiently as you can when you want to get back into this race, is Darrell Waltrip. And Waltrip from Franklin, Tennessee, heads back out in car number 11 here at Dover, Delaware, where the entire field is under caution. So let's go to Ed Bruce at Talladega.
Any serious fan of auto racing, and particularly stock car racing, knows that the roots of NASCAR are on the beaches at Daytona. This is an early example of a beach racing stock car. It's on display here at the International Motorsports Hall of Fame Museum in Talladega, Alabama. And I'd like to bring my friend Andy Allred, who's the director of the museum, in to tell us a little bit about this car and the development of the stock car over the years.
Hi, Ed. Welcome to Talladega.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be here.
Thank you.
What about this car, Andy? This is a real stock car, Andy.
It sure is. This is a car that was actually run on the beach in the early days. Back then, there was no roll cage or any safety features built in the car. They drove them to the track, they raced, and if they were lucky, they drove them home.
No attempts at aerodynamic design. I do notice the rear seat's been taken out.
Well, they take it out. That would eliminate a little bit of weight, and there's a possibility this car might have been used for something else besides racing, too.
Let's walk up here about 15 feet in 15 years. There's quite a bit of difference in this car and the one we just looked at.
It sure is. This is a Pontiac that was driven by Fireball Roberts, who was one of the greats back in his day. If you'll notice, the car has a roll cage in it. The speeds were picking up. They put roll cage in it for safety. NASCAR has always been much involved in safety features. They were still running the tread-type tires that you see on this car. They hadn't gone to the slick tires at this time.
Andy, what's the significance of this particular car in the development of NASCAR and Daytona racing history?
Well, in '62, Fireball drove this car in Daytona in 5 events. He won every event. He also had the fastest time ever for finishing a 500-mile race. It averaged over 150 miles an hour.
Now, we're not talking about just stock cars, but any type of motorsports racing for 500 miles.
That's right.
First one to average 150 miles.
That's right.
There's a lot more of interest here at the Hall of Fame Museum. Andy, would you show us more later?
Be happy to.
Right now, let's go back to racing action in the Monster Mile and the Dover 500.
Well, thanks, Ed. And in the meantime, we've taken the green. They're back at speed, except for Ricky Rudd, who's in the pits. He's been black flagged, and I'm not sure exactly why, Steve.
Well, I'm not sure either, Brock. They are sending him back out into the race, so it was not an oil leak or anything like that. I will try to find a NASCAR official and get an answer to this.
Okay, Steve, and in the meantime, the two leaders, Allison and Earnhardt. Earnhardt in that beautiful blue and yellow number 15 Thunderbird, a very aerodynamic car, more so than the Buick of Bobby Allison's, but on a racetrack of a mile in length, it doesn't really make that much difference. Streamlining doesn't become a factor until probably 160, 170 miles an hour, as we see the leaders, Earnhardt, Allison, Bodine, Labonte, and Tim Richmond, the young Charger, hanging in there in 5th place. A very, very good race here for the lead, as we've seen all day long. But these two automobiles have very firmly established themselves as the best handling and surely the quickest of the lot. Steve Evans has rounded up a NASCAR official, and we'll try to determine what happened to Ricky Rudd in that black flag incident.
Tell me the problem with Ricky Rudd, why you held him up. Well, I don't know why. They told me that he ran a stop sign on pit road. I didn't do it.
Just like out on the highway, you run a stop sign, you get stopped, you pay the price. These two men, though, are dominating the race. Earnhardt in the lead, followed immediately by Bobby Allison. Earlier in the going, Steve ran down Bobby Allison and asked him about Dover and especially about its new track surface.
Why did they resurface this racetrack since last year with a slurry coat on it? Has that changed the conditions at all? Your car set up?
Well, actually, the sealer they use here is incredibly good from my viewpoint anyway, you know. In my opinion, it's really the thing to do to one of these kind of tracks. It makes the car feel better, it gives better traction, and it's held up quite well. Some of the other materials we've seen around the circuit either make the track so slippery that you just really have a terrible time, or else they don't hold up or whatever. And I think that it's been a real big plus for the track.
Well, he sure is happy with it right now because he's sitting in 2nd place right on the tail of the leader and ready to take command. We'll be back with Earnhardt, Allison, and the rest of the NASCAR guys following these messages. Stay with us from the Dover 500 in Dover, Delaware. In the pits. When we last saw this car and driver, they were in the lead of the Dover 500, but now Dale Earnhardt into the pits for an unscheduled stop, put up. That means trouble for the automobile. He goes back into the race, far behind, as it turns out, Steve.
And also having to pit under the green flag is Richard Petty, the king, the winningest stock car driver of them all, currently running 13th. Well, he was when he stopped here, but that is rapidly being eroded. Anytime you pit under green, you lose position with almost every second of the race. So tires being installed on the left side of the car, some fuel being added, the jack comes down, and Richard Petty rejoins the Dover 500. Darrell Waltrip is in the pits, number 11.
Trouble all day long for Darrell. Car's not been handling to his expectations. Junior Johnson has been making adjustments in their other pit stops, but the automobile just isn't behaving. He's fallen off the pace. A real surprise for a man like this to be back in 16th place, Steve.
Well, Junior and the crew have installed new right rubber only on the car, plus topped up the fuel tank. And look at the abuse the tires have been taking that came off of Darrell's car, Brock.
Well, if the chassis is not set right, Steve, you're just going to fry the tires like that. This car, perfect handling at this particular point. Bobby Allison in that white number 22 Buick leads the race. Now in command after Dale Earnhardt's automobile made that unscheduled stop and we saw the hood go up. Uh-oh, there it is. As so often happens, that raised hood was a symptom of really serious troubles. Earnhardt out of the race into the garage area.
So with Earnhardt out for the day, Bobby Allison leads the Dover 500, but we've got a terrific battle shaping up for the 4th position. It is Tim Richmond in the number 27 Pontiac running 4th, and right behind him in the number 9 Ford is Bill Elliott, and just behind Elliott comes Harry Gant, the number 33 Buick. That is the race for the 4th position. They're just a few car lengths apart. Tim Richmond being forced to go high by some traffic in front of him right now, trying to figure out which way to get him. So he takes him high and is followed by Elliott and Gant. Again, they're all running after Richmond's 4th position. And as they throw him into turn 3, headed for 4, you can see the smoke off the tires, and you know why Darrell Waltrip's tires look like what they did. Blisters, cuts, and literally holes in those tires from the heat and the friction of this racetrack. Tim Richmond running forward, dives down under some lap traffic. Elliott and Gant also getting around that same lapped car. Now, Dale Earnhardt, who led this race so beautifully and was forced to go out of the race, is now down in the garage area, and Brock Yates is with him now.
Dale, I know it's hard to fall out of any race, but when you're leading it and running so strong, it must hurt you extra bad, huh?
Well, it does. You know, the car was working real well. You know, early in the race, it was really hard to tell how it was going to go out, but, you know, the car was working good enough. I felt like I had a good shot at it. We blew a head gasket, so that put us out of the race.
So you came in, you tried to fix it, but it just wouldn't work, huh?
Yeah, we tried to cool it down, and it throwed one of the fan belts off. You know, it just had one left on it. With the alternator belt, but they put another one on, hoping that would help it cool down, but it didn't.
Well, we're real sorry. Good race. Super run as far as it went. Congratulations. Dale Earnhardt, one of the real chargers in this business, out early.
So the heat of the day, a big factor in Dale Earnhardt dropping out of this race. Bobby Allison inherited the lead and still has it in car number 22. Just behind Allison is Neil Bonnet, who has been lapped in car number 75. Your actual second place runner right now is the 3rd car in the picture, Jeff Bodine, in car number 88. So Bonnet trying to get around Allison to unlap, and an engine is blown. A blown engine on car number 90, that is Dick Brooks. Dick Brooks will be putting some oil on the racetrack, and that is going to bring out the yellow flag. And as we saw earlier, expect a flurry of action in the pits as the NASCAR officials are bound to wave. Yes, the yellow flag is out so that some sweep can be put down and they can check out this racetrack. Incredible engine explosion as smoke pouring out of even the cockpit of the number 90 car of Dick Brooks. So he is for sure out of this race.
That's a tough break for the veteran Brooks. Notice that he went very high after the engine blew to get out of the groove, then came down low to get out of the way and not dump any more oil than necessary on the racetrack. Here's the leader, Bobby Allison, rolls into the pits. This is an opportunity, of course, to pick up some time if he can get back out. Tim Richmond in the pits too, Steve.
Yes, Tim Richmond was running 4th. As soon as he saw that yellow flag, he got in, but apparently they're having to bump start the car. But still, Tim's alertness and that of the crew will put him out of the pits ahead of Bobby Allison. The new leader, who was running 3rd at the time of the oil down, Terry Labonte, did not pit, so he is now the leader of the Dover 500, Terry Labonte. Bobby Allison still down on the pit wall, car number 22. It comes off the jacks and out it goes. And down in that pit area with Gary Nelson, his crew chief, is Brock Yates right now.
Gary, how's the tire wear been so far?
Well, we haven't had any tire problems. We're trying to sort out the handling right now. It seems like we started off on the loose side, and then we might have over-adjusted because the car started to develop a push then. Normally, we wouldn't have pitted after only 10 laps under green, but we're trying to get it dialed in.
How's this surface holding up? Is Bobby saying anything about the new surface?
He hasn't said anything to me. I'm not sure.
This is a racetrack that you just got to keep messing with the chassis all day long, though, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. You know, the track changes. Maybe that's part of our handling problems. Maybe the track is changing it real quick. They put a sealer on it. Maybe it's starting to wear down.
Well, it doesn't look like anybody else has got it solved any more than you guys do at this point.
No, definitely. Everybody has their hands full. And, you know, we're really aiming all of this towards the end of the race to get the ideal setup. So we'll write down what we did and how it worked. And we're experimenting, really.
Well, good. Good luck.
Okay, thanks.
A bright, very nice young man, Gary Nelson, that the Tigard Racing Team wouldn't take $1 million for. We're still under caution. They're cleaning up oil on the track, and we have a new leader, Terry Labonte, number 44. There's a few more caution laps to go, so let's visit with Ed Bruce down in Talladega at the Hall of Fame Museum.
Thanks, guys. I think one of the big reasons for the growth and the popularity of stock car racing over the years has been the identification of the fans with the drivers and the products in a lot of cases. Andy, in the mid to late 60s, the intermediate size cars started to get popular. And this is an example of one of them. Wasn't it about that time that the intermediate size cars started racing on the Grand National Circuit with the big cars?
Sure. This is a 1967 Ford. It was driven by Fred Lorenzen and prepared by Holman Moody. And he won $100,000 in one season in this car.
First one to do it?
First man for NASCAR to do that.
Well, was it bigger purses?
Well, he won more races than usual, but there was more sponsors getting into racing. There was more, the purses were getting larger. And the drivers started this on a full-time basis instead of a weekend job.
What sounds good is the popularity grew. They got more purses, more races, and more sponsors.
Sure, and they're still growing today.
We'll be back with more from the Hall of Fame Museum after a while, but right now we're going back to more racing in the Dover 500.
Thanks, Ed Bruce, as they're still under caution with Terry Labonte in the lead. Tim Richmond all the way up into second place. And there's a new name in the leaderboard, Morgan Shepherd, the young man who roller skates so well, Steve Evans, in the pit area when he's not driving one of these stock cars. A really interesting young man.
Well, he has roller skated his way through a buffalo herd here at Dover today to move up to that third spot, and we are under green. We are racing.
Got a bit of a jumble up there in the front. That number 21 car that looks like he's in second place is Buddy Baker. He's a couple of laps down and not really in the race for the lead.
Well, the same thing is true of the third car in our picture, car number 3, Ricky Rudd, who you remember was black flagged for running a stop sign in the pit, so he also is a lap down at least.
Well, Steve, these guys wouldn't appear to be factors, but let's not forget that back there in the middle of that pack is Bobby Allison, who has, of course, been leading for a while. He's got to get through not only Baker and Rudd, but a whole bunch of other guys to get back up to Labonte. So they can play a role in this race.
In fact, they are right now, as they are between car number 27, who's fourth in your picture, Tim Richmond, the red Pontiac, who would like, he is in second spot, but he's got to get around them if he is going to challenge Terry Labonte.
And nobody ever gives way really all that easily in a NASCAR race of this type. The slower cars will usually move out of the way, but they're trying to make up time too, so they're not going to just slow down and wave you past.
Especially not Ricky Rudd, who, if he can get around Labonte, will be back on that same lap. A caution flag could put him back into contention.
Absolutely. Everybody's trying. That's a wonderful part about a race like this. You just stuff your foot in it and keep on trucking. And we're going to do that, too, at the Dover 500 right after these messages. So stick with us. Terry Labonte and Tim Richmond battle for the lead at the Dover 500. Hi, I'm Brock Yates, along with Steve Evans, Ed Bruce, down in Talladega, Alabama, bringing you all the action here in this incredible race on the Monster Mile. And Richmond trying to get by Labonte, Steve.
He certainly is. He tried him high. That didn't work. They're very equally matched, it would appear, Brock, horsepower-wise. And as you've mentioned earlier, handling is going to be the key here at Dover. Richmond again trying to pull up alongside Labonte. Can't do it. He's going to try to go low. There's traffic there. He's just stuck behind him.
Well, these two kids are really, really hard chargers, both of them, especially Richmond, who just tends to get it sideways, drives his heart out. He drives as much with his heart as he does with his right foot. But he so far hasn't had a sniff at the lead today. This is as close as he's come. And right now he's going to try to get underneath Terry Labonte, but there's a lap car in the way. So Labonte should hold on to it, Steve.
But Terry Labonte, a fine race car driver in his own right. He's cautious, he's careful, but still has that aggressive quality you have to get into the winner's circle. From Trinity, North Carolina, Terry Labonte driving the Billy Hagan Chevrolet car. Tim Richmond, we said earlier, a former Indianapolis car driver. They said he was only a road racer in a stock car until he won the Pocono 500 recently. So Richmond now has the credentials and has been accepted as a big league member of the NASCAR racing fraternity and has moved from Ohio to North Carolina to be part of the whole thing. Terry Labonte, car number 44. Richmond trying to get him high again. Tim Richmond pulling alongside. Tim Richmond may get him this time. Let's see. He's ahead of him if he just has enough horsepower to duck down in, and he does. For the first time, Tim Richmond leads the Dover 500. And on the outside, that is Darrell Waltrip in car number 11, also trying to get around Terry Labonte to make up one of those laps that he lost in the pit area. So Tim Richmond leads at Terry Labonte second. Brock Yates is caught up with Dick Brooks, who blew an engine earlier and brought out the caution.
Dick, it looked as if you were just starting to get it really hooked up when something broke.
Yeah, I tell you, it was running great. Of course, that's the old Southern saying, well, he was running great, you know. Well, we were doing better than we've ever done here, or better than I've ever done here, and hooked up pretty well. And then we had an ignition problem of some sort, and they got that fixed, and we come back out, and we just super strong. We had a chassis dialed in just right. And I'll tell you, looking through these chameleon sunglasses make the racetrack look a lot different.
How did Did you have any warning at all before it went away on you?
Well, I did. It was in the turn. As I come up off of the turn, it felt like it was seizing up. I looked at the oil pressure, and the oil pressure was up. So I come to the top of the turn and started down the straightaway before I started to lift, and it popped at the same time. So
what do you do then when you're tell us what exactly a race driver does when he hits and lets go, and what the problems are that he faces when he hits and lets go?
Well, you can pretty well expect, if it explodes like that, you can pretty well expect you've got oil on the ground. And when you get to the corner, you ought to try to be as slow as you possibly can and have all the room you can, because if you do slide a little bit, you won't have enough room to correct it. And that's what happened there. We came down the straightaway. We were lucky in this case. It blew at the first part of the straightaway, so you got all the way to the straightaway to try to get the thing slowed down. And when it got to the end, well, you know, I was running half speed, and it started slipping a little bit, but it just kind of seesawed up the racetrack, and then we had it under control. So you're lucky sometimes if it blows in the front part of the straightaway, you've got a lot of time to try to slow it down. If it's right at the end of the straightaway, sometimes you don't have time to do anything.
And Brock, coming into the pit area, is the car that was running in second spot, Terry Labonte. Number 44, who sat on the pole at the start of this race, just had to give up second position, possibly a scheduled pit stop. Let's wait and see, as 44 is in the pits.
He sure is, Steve, and they're checking underneath. He probably has some tire problems, and that could have been the reason that Tim Richmond got by him with as much authority as he did. So they've made a tire change, added some fuel, and Labonte's back underway, but of course the lead has slipped far, far away from his grip right now.
So disastrous when you have to come in on the green flag. That was not a scheduled pit stop.
Well, it could be that he was waiting, hoping that maybe they would have a caution to get that correction made, as Tim Richmond now has opened himself up a nice lead. He's got all kinds of room. Nobody around him, nobody in his rearview mirror. There's his crew chief, Tim Brewer. He's got a stopwatch in his hand, but he's not using it right now because it's pretty obvious that his man has got a nice, solid lead.
That he does, Brock, and it's got to be a good feeling for Tim after all the hard luck they suffered early in this season. A new team getting together. They had some growing pains, but they have definitely got it sorted out now. A good, strong race car with a very aggressive driver. And we've got some trouble. We've got a car into the wall, Brock. That is Jerry Bauman.
Bauman from right in the neighborhood across the bay in Maryland, that number 64 Ford. He is okay. He just he may have broken something as he slid into the wall and certainly crunched up the right side of the vehicle. Big influence on this race, though, because once again, the caution flag comes out.
And Tim Richmond, our leader, has an uncanny ability to spot that yellow flag and get into the pits in a hurry. Tim Brewer, the crew swarming around that red number 27 Pontiac, and he's getting the full treatment. Tires, fuel, windshield, the works.
The same way with the number 22 car, Bobby Allison, and his crew go to work on that vehicle. He's got some time to make up, and here's a perfect chance to do it. If he can get out ahead of Tim Richmond, he's got himself a chance to get back up in front. Remember, he was running very strongly in the early stages of the race, but now it's all Richmond, and Richmond comes out in that number 27 Pontiac, again, in good, solid command.
Well, no one's done it better all day than Tim Richmond and crew as he goes back out on the racetrack. We're still under the yellow flag. Bobby Allison, car number 22, is off the jacks and moving, as is Bill Elliott in car number 9, right behind Allison. So Tim Richmond, the leader, and will be cruising around this racetrack. And back in the pit area is car number 44, Terry Labonte. Remember, just a few laps ago, he pitted under green, now again under yellow, Brock.
Well, they got a little more chance to do what they wanted to do under that green. Naturally, you hurry when you're on the green flag condition. Now he had a little bit more time, so they changed that left side rubber.
And Richmond is back in again. 2 pit stops on the same yellow flag.
And they're pointing at the hood. It looks like they're going to have to raise the hood up. They've got some problems over there. They're whacking away on that hood, trying to get it up. It's difficult to see what they're doing exactly from this vantage point, but they've got some problems with the bodywork. It could be that a fender is rubbing on the right front tire. They certainly are fooling with the hood, though, and that's an abnormal situation. I don't think I've ever seen that done quite this way.
Well, let's hope they've got a body man on the crew, Brock. You know, I don't know if they're trying to get the hood up or trying to keep it down.
Good question. Everybody is intent on doing something with that sheet metal, though, and at least the automobile's running, and Tim Richmond back underway here at Dover, as is the rest of the field under caution. And we'll be back with more the Dover 500 following this message.
Under the caution flag here at the Dover 500, caused by Jerry Bauman's encounter with the wall. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Ed Bruce down in Talladega. Here we see the Bauman car. It is definitely done for the day and maybe the season. Having a very tough mid-afternoon is Terry Labonte, the car number 44, again being signaled into the pit area. Remember, we saw him pit under green, then under yellow, and now back in again under the yellow flag is Terry Labonte. Apparently, the racing setup on this automobile is not performing nearly as well as their qualifying combination, which put number 44 on the pole. But the crew keeps fiddling with the tires and the suspension. They're trying to send him out in the best handling race car they possibly can. Also coming back into the pits for a quick adjustment, a window cleaning is Tim Richmond. Brock is in the Labonte pits.
Dale, how bad did that hurt you? You stopped under green, and then you got the yellow the next lap. It finished the damn lap down, and, you know, we didn't need that. Dale Linder, the crew chief on the Terry Labonte car, very disappointed because of a piece of racing luck that they had no opportunity to withstand. They just took their chance. They stopped on it under the green, and one lap later, out came the yellow. They're down one lap down after running a very strong second.
All right, thank you very much, Brock. And we have a new leader for the first time. Jeff Bodine in car number 88 leads the Dover 500. We're under caution. Let's go down to Talladega, Alabama again and meet with Ed Bruce.
Andy, from what we've seen earlier here at the museum, this car certainly represents a very radical departure from what had been accepted as standard stock car body design from an aerodynamic standpoint. The addition of the streamlined nose cap, on down some sheet metal modifications, the removal of the door handles, and then back to where we're standing to the most obvious feature of aerodynamic design, the wing. How successful was this car?
Well, it was very successful, Ed. The wing enabled the car to have more stability and therefore get much more speed than the other cars did.
How much faster?
Oh, some 5-7 miles an hour, depending on where it was running. And on the super tracks, of course, it helped more than it did on the short
Who
track.
drove this car?
This car was driven by Buddy Baker, Ed. It was prepared by Cotton Owens, and this is the first automobile to obtain a speed of 200 miles an hour. It was done here at Talladega.
Well, if it was that much faster, that far superior, why did they take the wings off?
Well, the cars were getting somewhat out of control speed-wise, so NASCAR decided they need to slow them down somewhat, so they took the wings off of them, and actually it made the other cars more competitive with them.
Well, after they took the wings off, what was the next step, Andy?
Well, the next step would be the Richard Petty car, number 43.
Oh, number 43.
Ed, this is probably the most famous car in racing. The numbers and the colors, the car belonging to Richard Petty and being driven by him. In 4 years, he had 31 wins, 16 pole positions, and 4 Daytona wins in this car. And only him and the revenue folks know how much money he made.
One more than any other single car, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Now, it's pretty much what we're seeing today on the speedways, isn't it?
Basically, the cars have been downsized somewhat. They've cut the size of the engine a little bit, but this is basically what's running today.
Andy, I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed the trip around the museum. Thanks for your time.
Good to have you with us.
Showing us through. And when are you open?
We're open. We close on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We're open 9 to 5 all other days of the year.
If you're a racing fan and you're coming through Talladega, Alabama, you owe it to yourself to come back. Right now, we're going back to the Monster Mile and the Dover 500.
Thanks, Ed. Really interesting stuff from Talladega. Fantastic museum. Jeff Bodine, the Northerner, with the great record on the short tracks of the Northeast, and the car number 88 leads it at the present time. A good, solid runner, Bodine, with a lot of short track experience. He is very much at his advantage on these miles, Steve, and has been in the hunt really all day long.
He certainly has. The crowd on their feet as the green flag is out. We are racing once again. Jeff Bodine in the lead with Bobby Allison, car number 22, running second. Actually, the cars you see at the front of the pack running side by side, Darrell Waltrip and Neil Bonnet, are both lapped cars.
As is always the case in a caution situation, you do get the field mixed up a bit, and it is going to take Bodine and Allison a little bit of time to get past the number 75 car of Bonnet and the number 11 car of Darrell Waltrip, because, as we said earlier, those guys are trying just as hard, even though they're a lap down, and they aren't going to give away all that easily.
No, not at all, Brock. Should there be another caution flag, who knows what's going to develop into one of these races. It's still possible in stock car racing for either one of them to finish very high.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, Darrell Waltrip looks like he's got it hooked up for a change. That car's had all kinds of problems all day long. But Junior Johnson may have made the right corrections on that last stop because it's run really well. In fact, he's moving out in good shape. And here is the serious race for the lead. Bobby Allison trying to stick a nose underneath Jeff Bodine in that green number 88, and he may do it.
Allison on the inside, the red and white, car number 22. Allison has been very successful in this particular maneuver earlier in the race, but he's not going to make it stick this time, Brock.
Boy, oh boy, that Bodine car is handling beautifully in that high groove. He's got enough speed to stay. He's going about probably another 300 or 400 feet farther up there, but he's staying ahead of Bobby.
They got to be looking back and forth at each other a little bit, if nothing else, with their peripheral vision.
Well, I'm sure that they're driving their own race. One of the rules in this kind of racing, when you're running so tight, you can't drive against another car per se. You've got to drive your own car and not watch anybody else. You got to, because otherwise you might get carried into a corner and who to know what might happen.
It looked for a moment like that red lap car number 24 was going to be a problem for Bobby Allison, but they both, Bodine and Allison, just kind of swept high and right around him. Nobody lost an inch.
Well, that's the short track experience that both these men have. Allison now squeezing into the lead. Both of them, Allison, Bodine, have vast experience on short tracks, and that's where you get that kind of sparring ability with other cars and running in really heavy traffic. So it didn't really pose a big problem for either one of these guys. Allison in particular runs about 30 short track races a year even now, in addition to his 30-odd race Grand National schedule. So he's in a race car 60 or 70 races a season. But you know, there's more to it than just simple experience. And Allison uses all the latest tricks. Steve Evans talked to him about one of them.
Bobby, what's this I hear about the newest member of the Alabama gang being a computer?
Well, actually, it's the newest member of the Dygaard racing team. You know, it's something that we've paid a lot of attention to over the last considerable while. Gary Nelson is a youngster that's very oriented to modern technology. Robert Yates has been around a little bit longer, but he's also very oriented to modern technology. And we think that the computer enables us to look at some things from a different viewpoint and maybe help us make some decisions on various track conditions or race strategies or whatever.
What kind of input would you feed into the computer?
Well, we put all kinds of stuff in there, and we don't divulge too much what we put in or get out, but we put a pretty general picture of the race from our viewpoint in there, and then we take a look back at it.
Does this computer have a name yet?
Not yet, no.
Haven't nicknamed the computer.
It's just a computer.
Well, he's going to need all the folks at IBM. He's going to hold off Tim Richmond, who has come back, gotten past Jeff Bodine, seems to have cured whatever those bodywork problems were, and he is going to challenge for the lead the hard way, Steve. He's going to try to take Allison on the outside.
Tim Richmond, just an amazing performance this afternoon. Just when they think they've got him down in the pits 3 times, he's right back, and he could get the lead here from Bobby Allison. As the races progress, Brock, they appear to be running higher and higher on the track. Look at Richmond right against the wall, and he's going to take Allison there.
Well, he's going to try anyway. He's got a little bit of an edge. Now he's got almost a full car length, but there's a lap car coming up. We'll see whether or not Bobby can hold him. They're going just literally neck and neck as they come up on that lap car. And is there room? Well, we'll see. Allison doesn't give way. He never gives way. He's as tough a driver as there is in this business. But boy, I'll tell you, the kid from Ohio is giving him all he wants right now, Steve.
I think that win earlier this season at Pocono gave him a lot of confidence on the oval tracks. He knew he was a good road racer, an IndyCar driver, and now look at him. What a thrill it's got to be to just blow by Bobby Allison like Tim Richmond just did. So a former road racer driving for a world champion drag racer leads the Dover 500. We'll be back with more. Stick with us.
500, Tim Richmond, followed by Bobby Allison and Jeff Bodine, the only 3 men on the lead lap. Hi, I'm Brock Yates, along with Steve Evans, Ed Bruce down in Talladega, as we see another race developing back here in 7th.
Ron Bouchard in car number 47, Brock, and Harry Gant, number 33, are duking it out for that 7th spot. You say, why work so hard for 7th? Well, there's a big prize money difference and points difference on the Grand National standings. The higher you finish, that is Gant trailing Bouchard. Harry Gant, a very popular driver with the fans, Brock. They just mob him every chance they get.
Well, he's got a restaurant up there in Taylorsville, North Carolina, that I understand is a really good place to eat if you're ever in that part of the state. Ron Bouchard from up in Massachusetts, one of the few guys in this league that doesn't have a really strong southern draw. Very, very well liked in this league, and a really a good guy, Ron Bouchard. Has a lot of short track experience, like Jeff Bodine. He's a veteran of that kind of racing, as is Harry Gant. In fact, most of these guys came out of the late model sportsman ranks, either in the East or the South.
Now, Harry Gant has moved down low on the track, out of the draft, going to see if he can't put the horsepower move on Bouchard, and he appears to be doing that. Inch it up, getting door handle to door handle with Ron Bouchard. Harry Gant on the inside in car number 33, Bouchard on the outside. This is the race for 7th spot.
Boy, and it's a good one. It sure is neat to see cars running in different lines all over a racetrack like this. So many cases you'll see it turn into a run-through racetrack, and you just can't pass. But, boy, everybody's passing everybody, except this young man, Tim Richmond. Nobody is in sight right now. Richmond's, ooh!
And apparently that became more than just a battle for a position as they have tangled, Brock. Bouchard and Harry Gant have gotten together and put both of them up against the wall, and you see the yellow caution flag waving.
Boy, you commented earlier that they were door handle to door handle down the front chute. This time they got a little bit more. They got window to window, I guess, and off they went. Probably got up against the wall in turn 4 and down onto the apron. Doesn't look like anybody's hurt. The flag is out, and now Allison, look at that, has used this opportunity to squeeze right up on Tim Richmond.
Harry Gant out of the car. Driver number 33 is out, surveying the damage a bit and seeing how quickly he can get across that racetrack and back to the comfort of his van.
Into the beds, the leader, Tim Richmond. They're going to clean that windshield off and hopefully get him back out without having to beat on the hood anymore, Steve.
And Bobby Allison's crew mopping the windshield and giving him a cool drink on the end of that stick. Tim Richmond, his crew still trying to get him out of the pits to maintain the lead.
They sure are, Steve, but first they're going to have to put the left side rubber on, as is the Bobby Allison crew. Both these automobiles going to get fresh tires all the way around, which should give them a chance to sprint to the finish. And there goes Richmond underway before his arch rival in this race, Bobby Allison. But you know what? A surprise. The leader is Jeff Bodine. He's out before both of them. And now Steve is caught up with Tim Brewer, Richmond's crew chief.
Well, Tim, that war of waiting is over. You got the yellow you needed. Everybody's made their final pit stop, and we've got a fine one on our hands now.
Well, everybody can go to distance now. You know, you kind of had to play your hand a while ago, which we thought we had the best one. We're running out front. Tim, you know, he's been a little bit conservative with his tires. We had to just stop and put in a couple of gallons of gas. We thought we would have been in the best shape, but right now everybody's got, you know, 4 of their best tires, so to speak. They've got a full load of fuel and, you know, made an old Milwaukee car win.
You may have the best handling car out there, though. Tim seems to be able to run high, and Allison doesn't.
Well, you know, Tim, he can pretty much go anywhere he wants to on the racetrack, so, you know, we backed off the truck running good. Maybe we can, you know, put a pretty good combination together and win this thing.
So Richmond's crew is confident. Brock is with Gary Nelson, Bobby Allison's chief.
Gary, Richmond seemed to be handling a little bit better in that last round. Was that true, or was Bobby laying back?
Well, you know, you never run as hard as you can in Dover until the last 50 or 60 miles. The car was working better, but we're not satisfied yet.
You changed 4 tires, all corners that time, huh?
Yeah, we changed 4 tires and made some more adjustments on the car. It's really getting tough for us to hit it right on the money. You know, we're either pushing too much or a little too loose. You know, we're competitive and we're leading a lot of laps and running with the leaders, but we know we can make it a little better. It's just, there's so many variables and so many things we can change. We're just trying to hit it right.
Well, Gary Nelson said it best. At Dover, you never start running your hardest till after the final pit stop. Stay with us for the race to the checkered flag. It could be a wild one. Stock Car fan will tell you that the final laps of a 500-mile race are what it's all about. And we are in the final laps of the Dover 500 with Jeff Bodine, car number 88, leading because he beat Tim Richmond and Bobby Allison out of the pits. They are running 2 and 3 respectively. This is Steve Evans with Brock Yates. It could be a thriller, Brock.
Sure could. Well, it's really a whole new race. race. It's almost as if we haven't had anything before this, Steve. These guys are going to race as if it's a little sprint. And all the stops are going to be pulled out. Nobody's going to hold back. No strategy now. It's just a shootout to the finish. Well, they're coming down to the green, and it's out.
Jeff Bodine leads him into turn number 1, the final laps of the Dover 500. Tim Richmond tucks in behind him. Bobby Allison running third.
Well, we like to think anything can happen in a NASCAR race of this kind, but really reality says, the odds say that one of these three main players are going to win this thing. That guy, number 88, the young man from the north, Jeff Bodine. The number 44 car you see there in your picture is Terry Labonte. He's not in it. He's a couple of laps down. So it's a simple matter of who's going to beat who among the three major players, Bodine, Allison, or Richmond, Steve.
And Brock, Bobby Allison, car number 22, has passed Tim Richmond. Richmond, who was running so strong, passing anywhere he wanted to before that final pit stop, does not have that combination anymore. He is falling back. Bobby Allison now goes after Jeff Bodine.
Well, it's one of those crapshoots you can get into. They may have made some chassis adjustments. They could have picked up a bad set of tires. It's possible. You never know, but he certainly is not running as hard as he was. And you've got to think that maybe it could be engine too, Steve. There any one of a number, 100 different things that could cause that car to slow down. But you got to know one thing. There's one hot young kid in that cockpit. He's sore if he can't run like he was.
Especially when he just saw Darrell Waltrip a couple of laps down just drive right by him. Something radically wrong with that car, and it came from out of nowhere.
Yeah, it sure did. And it's, unless something happens, as in the case of another caution where he can get back into the pits and let Tim Brewer and his boys have a look at that vehicle, he's out of the running.
Well, at the rate Richmond's going right now, he has little chance of catching the car you just saw, number 88. In fact, you can see Darrell Waltrip running 5th, moving away from Tim Richmond in the 3rd spot. Darrell Waltrip still trying to make up those laps lost in the pit area.
Well, maybe so, Steve. We saw him win here last year, but I'm afraid not today. It's probably going to be between one of these two guys. Jeff Bodine in the lead. Allison right, just taking up his whole rear view mirror. And you've got to know, Steve Evans, that Allison is going to take a shot at him any minute now.
Sure he will, Brock. On a super speedway, 2.5 miles, let's say, laying in that 2nd spot to the last lap might be the best strategy, but not on a mile track like this. Drafting can be important, but not as crucial as it is on a big, big racetrack.
No, it isn't. But, of course, Bodine, with all that short track experience, that car is going to get awful wide here. He's going to be all over the racetrack, and as we've seen, everybody can run up and down, high and low. So Allison's going to have his work cut out to get by him.
Allison going to give him a little nudge there, make sure he knows he's there.
Oh, you can be sure Bodine knows he's there. In fact, he knows he's in front of him right now as Allison dives underneath and takes the lead.
It is this kind of racing that has made NASCAR Grand National Stock Car Competition one of the most popular forms of motor racing in the world. Certainly in this country, Bobby Allison. Hundreds and hundreds of racetrack victories to his credit. Maybe one more will be added today in car number 22. He now has a few car lengths on Jeff Bodine, and no one else, especially Tim Richmond back there, seems to be able to make a move on him now, Brock.
No, I guess they got that computer to work pretty well wherever it is. They certainly did the right things as far as the chassis is concerned. With Allison, not so with this vehicle. Number 27 out of it for the afternoon. He's still hanging on for 3rd place, but there's no way, unless something really miraculous happens, that he's going to catch this man, Bobby Allison, who now has a clear frame all to himself. He's got himself about 10 car lengths on 2nd place runner Jeff Bodine. You can see in the back there as he goes past a lap car. Little smoke off that right rear tire, but that's nothing to be alarmed about, Steve.
Well, here's Bodine, as you said, running in that 2nd spot, which would be a terrific finish the way his season has been going. He'll settle for it, but he did have that smell of victory, I'm sure, at one point in that cockpit. There's 22, Bobby Allison. He is going for it. There are right now only 2 laps remaining in the Dover 500 with Bobby Allison, car number 22, in the lead.
And nobody really there to threaten him, and nobody to get into his way up front. That's another good sign. He hasn't had a lot of problems with lap traffic today, but all the cars are falling his way right now. Stevie's got a clear track. He shouldn't have any problems unless, who's to know, something breaks.
That's right. It can always happen in any form of racing, but with 30 years driving experience, the savvy and experience of the Dygaard Racing crew, 1 lap to go, and the very contemporary thinking of young Gary Nelson. What a tough combination, the old, the new, and the in-between.
But it all results in a super fast race car and a super fast race driver. And right right now, he's got it all. All he's got to do is run a couple of more corners, and it's his. The Dover 500 victory is in his back pocket. Bobby Hillen Jr., the rookie, is going a little bit wide, but he makes it past. Bobby Allison takes the checkered flag. He's a winner.
And these guys are winners, too. The crew for Bobby Allison in car number 22, who did such a sensational job in the pits, as Bobby did out on the racetrack. So another win for the captain of the Alabama gang, Bobby Allison. We'll be back to talk to him and have some closing comments right after this.
Youth will not be served today as Bobby Allison collects his 79th Grand National Championship victory, and again conquers the Monster Mile here in Dover, Delaware, to win the Dover 500. Bobby, you saved the best for last.
Well, the car ran good all day, but the competition was great again for the about the third week in a row. You know, we've just had tremendous racing, and this week it was Bodine and Tim Richmond that put the push out there, and man, I'll tell you what, I'm just thrilled with my guys. Gary Nelson and Robert Yates, both of them done a heck of a job for me, and the car drove super all day long.
It may well have been that crew that won the race for you. They were far more efficient than some of the others.
Yeah, they did a great job like they always do. They got the car ready for me. They made a lot of changes today during the race. And, boy, I'll tell you what, I just can't say enough about them and for them, and I can't thank them enough.
And our congratulations again to Bobby Allison winning his third straight Grand National title, his 79th over a long career.
The satisfaction of winning overshadows the exhaustion that Bobby must feel after 500 tough laps. Brock Yates is with Jeff Bodine.
Jeff, super job. Second place, ran real strong all day. Bobby just seemed to run you down with a little bit more horsepower, maybe a little bit better handling near the end.
Well, he was coming off the corners better than we were all day. You know, our car was, I guess, a little too tight, and it slowed it down coming off the corner. He might have had a little more gear, I don't know. But, you know, like I just said to someone else, second to Bobby Allison is pretty good. He's been around this track many times, and I think this is only my fourth race here. So to come in second, we're, you know, extremely happy. With all the problems we've had all year, you know, we'd run good and then fall out, run good and fall out. This is really great, you know. We've proved that we're going to stay in there the rest of the year.
Oh, that's sensational. Was there any particular point in the race that you, if you look back on, you'd like to have it a little bit different? Was there any moment where you can look back and say that was that might have cost me a victory?
Those last 40 laps. I'd like to do it over again, I'll tell you. It seems like towards the end, I got a little better groove on the racetrack, and I started catching Bobby. He probably slowed up a little bit being careful, but we caught some lap traffic, and I'd like to have a few more laps to go at him, but it would have been tough. He's just one tough customer.
Well, you're one tough customer, too, and congratulations on a great drive this afternoon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, winning isn't everything to Jeff Bodine. He's thrilled to death with the second place finish behind winner Bobby Allison. Tim Richmond hung in for third. The Dover 500 is history. Let's go to Ed Bruce.
I do love to watch the good old boys run. Congratulations to all the drivers, and especially to Bobby Allison for his great victory today. And he did pretty well a few years ago with this old girl. Thanks again to Andy Allred for taking us through the Hall of Fame Museum. I enjoyed it. Hope you did. For Brock Yates and Steve Evans, I'm Ed Bruce. Have